24/7, 365. The #2 internet radio program according to TalkStreamLive.com. This is the Jiggy Jaguar Radio Show.
By the way, just in case you're wondering, just because I put the 2 up does not mean I'm going to be talking smack on Mr. Fitness 2 in this segment. I would never talk smack on Mr. Fitness 2. I love Mr. Fitness 2. I think it's the greatest gimmick ever in wrestling. But, we do have to talk some shit. We got to tell some truths. We got to talk some shit here. That's what we're doing. We're shooting today. Got my nice shirt on. I should change the shirt between takes. I don't know. Maybe we run these all as one show. I don't know how this works. But it is the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast. It is coast to coast. It is border to border. It is TuneIn, iTunes, Radio Loyalty, Stitcher, and, of course, Jiggy Jaguar app, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7, and 50-plus AM, FM stations across the fruity plain. Now, let's see. Where should we start? I've got a list. I'm checking it twice. We've already talked about the Lance, Tommy Snow thing. I talked about Burgess Martin. Let's talk about... God, I don't know. Do I want to go XWE? Or do I want to go KWR? God, I don't know. Let's talk about Lance. Let's talk about Lance. He's at the top of a different list. Let's talk with Lance. Lance Chaffin, the Middle West of Mangala. The Middle West of Mangala, man. Oh, Daddy Nelly. The Midwest Mangler, or the Mangler, or Lance Chaffin, or that bastard, or whatever you want to call the guy. I didn't call him a bastard, the internet did. But, I love Lance. I'm entertained by Lance. I feel sorry for Lance. That's the new line. It's like, thoughts and prayers. I feel sorry for Lance. Okay. Lance Chaffin, the Midwest Mangler. Let me tell you about Lance. Let me give you a little bit of inside story on Lance. Lance and I have been buddies since, God, I don't know, 2010? 2011? He was on our old wrestling show we used to do, me and Cousin Chris. He was on, he's been on this show on a couple different occasions. I've been involved with Lance on a lot of different occasions. I was there one time when Lance performed essentially a home invasion on someone. And Mitch Bass knows the story I'm talking about because I know Mitch is watching. Essentially what happened is some guy on the internet was talking smack on Lance. I was showing it to Lance. We were sitting at Applebee's, and he was getting drunk. And then at one point, myself, Michael Nisley, and him went over to the dude's house. And it involved damage to property. It involved a samurai sword. And at the end, and it involved peeing into the roommate of this guy's front seat because he had the window down because it was the middle of the summer. All sorts of things. Lance was involved in a deal one time where me and him and Jennifer the Hood Rat and a few other people went to this guy's house by the name of Jeeves. And there were some issues there with the fact that Lance was being Lance. Nothing ever came of it. It's not a big deal. It's just funny, ha-ha, goes into the history, goes into the annals of history. As Mitch Bass would say, it is just part of, what is it? It's part of the experience. It's part of the story, something. Part of the legend. It would just contribute to the legend, is what he used to say. Well, here's the deal. Lance, when he was doing stuff in Wichita with his brother Billy, they did some things in Wichita, doing wrestling and all the stuff. Lance did some stuff in Mount Hope when him and Brooke were doing NWE and stuff. And they did some stuff here in Hutchinson where they're doing MWE. Lance has got a lot on the ball, but sometimes the ego and sometimes the mangler gets in the way. It's kind of like, they say that Stone Cold is really, or Steve Austin is really Stone Cold with the volume turned up. Lance Chaffin is really the mangler, but sometimes the volume is not really all the way turned up. They turned it up and broke the bar off. It's kind of bad. But, Lance is a good heel because he's a heel in real life. He lives his gimmick. But let me tell you about some stuff that Lance has done that you're not going to be shocked by it, and that's fine. But back in the day when myself and Adam Pena and I almost called him Adam Bass and Mitch Pena, they're not the same guy, are they? Or are they? I don't know. No, I've seen him in the same place at once, so they're not the same guy. So we were doing Causes for a Cause. And I had this idea of doing fundraisers. And then Mike Clares had the idea of, well, why don't we don't want to do concerts because that's what we do. So let's do something else. Let's do pro wrestling. And so me and him had went to one of Lance's shows in Wichita. And he's like, I can picture, advertising on the mat, advertising on the banners, advertising on the ringside curtain, all the stuff, ring apron, all the stuff. So we tried to put this together. And so we got a hold of Lance. As at that time I was not XWE and Marsha and Access and persona non grata, as they say. So I got together with Lance and Outlaw, who were working together at that time, show up. And Lance starts talking about budgets and all this stuff. And oh my God. And at the end of the presentation, after he leaves, we're like, so we're going to pay him $3,000 to come in and do a show that's a benefit show. And so then we started thinking, well, what if we give him the money and he doesn't do the show and then he goes and has money to go do another show? Trying to make a cash grab. So we decided not to do anything there, and we, moved on. And then Lance started harassing. He started harassing Pena and Mitch and Mike. More Mike than anybody. And they kind of became little enemies on the outs there. Then, of course, when Lance started working with Dan later on, I kind of smoothed things over and everything, and everybody went water under the bridge. So then come several years later, I had tried, in fact, just 6 months ago, maybe not even 6 months ago, 4 months ago, my jiu-jitsu instructor here in Hutch wanted to do smoker fights. And so I had pitched the idea to Billy and Duncan at XWE, and we had tried to do them with my kickboxing guy, Andy Zerger, and that didn't quite go well. A lot of not returned phone calls, things like that. And then we tried to do some stuff I tried to do Lance and Zerger, and that really didn't work. So I thought, well, we'll start over. We'll get my jiu-jitsu guy, Ernest Bell, involved, and we'll do some stuff. So Ernest met with Lance, and Lance was really impressed with Ernest, and Ernest was really impressed with Lance, and they were going to do this thing, and Ernest was just wanting to throw a show, and Lance was going to, he was going to let Lance have the money, and we were going to do this stuff, and I had put a marketing plan together, and I talked to Zerger about some stuff. We had this whole thing put together, and realistically, if they would have done this, they could have made anywhere between $7,000 to $10,000 off VIPs and tables and all the stuff. Well, Lance calls me one night. And he goes, well, I've got packages. We can do 5,000. We can do 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. What in the world? What in the world? what in the world is that sorcery? Oh. And so I was like, well, I don't think Ernest has got the budget to do that, and he was going to give you all the money. And I said, we're wanting to make money with this. And he goes, who's going to make the money? And I said, hopefully it's you and Brooke. And he's like, okay. Well, then of course whatever happened with Brooke and Lance and all that. I don't know what happened, because if I did know what happened, I'd tell you. It's plain and simple. I'd tell you. So I tell this Logitech camera. Oh my God, people are watching the Logitech camera, and now they know. Ah! Okay, so once again, it's a cash grab. It's like Lance misses out on a lot of opportunities because he's trying to do a cash grab. And I completely understand. And I'm not going to fault Lance for it, just like I never faulted Burgess for the $200. It happens, I guess. I'm a lot more forgiving than people give me credit for, and I put up with a lot of nonsense that I shouldn't. Like something that I'll get into a little bit later on. I sent a message to Billy, who then sent it to Dan, who then sent it to Mitch, Mike, and Adam. And then later on, there was a screenshot that I sent someone else, Derek Ells. And then that got, or Natester, one of the two. And that got sent to Billy, and then Billy's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. I'm like, well, didn't you? Okay, whatever. We're talking about Lance. We'll talk about all these guys later. Or the ring thing with Zombie and Hoisington. Oh, we'll get to that later, too. So, here's the deal. Lance is just Lance. What are you going to do about it? He's just Lance. So, no hard feelings with Lance. I still like Lance. Lance is a good guy. I know that sounds like a broken record because I said the exact same thing about Burgess. There's going to be some of these where I'm going to be, I like the guy, I can't fault the guy. And then there's going to be some of these that I do where I'm going to be like, at the end of it, oh, that guy and Jiggy are probably never going to speak ever again. You know, like me being a Cancer, and the Cancer needs to be cut out. Which, by the way, for the record, was Scorpio. 11/17/1979. But I always think that joke is funny. No one else finds that joke humorous. But here's the deal with Lance. Lance has got a lot of potential, and he, for whatever reason, kind of keeps it hidden and does things. I believe it was my buddy John Mosier who told me, just when Lance starts to get people wanting to work with him, he does something to put his foot in his mouth. I couldn't agree more with John. So, but we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to continue. I don't know what we're going to do, but we got more coming up.